chat with the chamber. Very special guest, Barb Bergen, Detective Barb Bergen with Crimeline. And thanks for coming up.
Appreciate the invite.
Sanford. It's always good to see you. And we haven't seen each other in a couple of years, but have spent a lot of time on the phone back and forth talking about different things with what you do and how you do it in your group. And so it's just kind of an open, casual conversation about who you are, when you were born, why you do what you do, and why you're so mean.
That's the retired cop in me.
That's the retired cop in you, exactly. Crimeline, wonderful organization, a great group of people, and a lot of volunteerism and doing what's right for the community, business community, personal community, individuals. And so we're going to go through a lot of that.
Okay.
Whatever you want to talk about, we'll go down some crazy rabbit holes. That's what I like to get into. But just I'll hand it over to you. Just give us a little bit of background about who you are, what you are, why you do what you do, and
okay.
a little bit about Crimeline.
That's not a problem. So I've been here in Central Florida over 35 years. I came here. I owned a 240Z, and everything I owned at that point in my life fit in my 240Z, including my golf clubs.
You're not going to believe this, but I had a 240Z growing up also. Oh my God, I wish I still had it.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. So I drove from Colorado with everything I owned in the golf clubs and knew people down here and said, well, I'm just going to go down there and check it out.
Yeah.
Had no goals, had no intentions.
Didn't know anybody here?
No. I knew a couple people, but not, some people I'd met doing different things. And so came down and started pulling weeds for a living, which I absolutely love. Unfortunately, my first activity of pulling weeds was in a rental house that we had, and I was pulling this thing that looked like a weed to me, being from Colorado. It was St. Augustine grass. Who knew that grass grew on top of the ground? It's like that. Yeah. I'm like, well, this has got to be a weed because it's not growing down from the soil. So I learned a whole lot about landscaping, got into the business, and started. I worked for a big company on some large properties, supervising some crews, and then I was like, you know what, I can do this on my own. Got up to like 40-some accounts.
Really?
Yeah. And was still working for the big company, so I had people working here, and we were doing a lot of things. Driving down the road one day, I-4 as a matter of fact, and heard an advertisement for the Orlando Police Department. This was in 83. It was early 83.
I was 7 years old.
You're so fluid. And I had brown hair then too. And so I was like, you know what? I was mad as all get out at my boss at the time for the big company. I was like, this is awful hard work doing landscaping. I don't know if I can do this till I'm 60. So I stopped in with the truck and trailer, pulled in, grabbed an application, and it's like this thick. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I can't. I cannot fill this out and do this. So I took it home. I threw it up on the counter. A couple weeks later, again mad. Commercials are still running. I know they're still hiring. So I sit down one night finally and fill out this massive application. Now, I have no law enforcement in my background.
Right.
I've been a pretty good kid, a couple little bumps along, but law enforcement was never a plan. I fill it out, I actually drop it off on my way to the airport to go home to Denver for a week for vacation. I drop it off and I stay 2 weeks, and they call me and they're like, hey, we want you to come in and start processing. And I'm like, for what? And they're like, well, we're about to offer you a job.
Oh, wow.
And so I quickly fly back. I have no military.
Yeah.
I don't know paramilitary. I don't know what a gig line is, that your shirt and your belt and your buckle are all supposed to. I knew nothing going into this, how to military press shirts and stuff. But I went to the academy, did well there because I was physically pretty strong.
Yeah.
I scored well on my tests, got through, got paid all the way through that academy. I was very happy to be getting that, and kept all of my accounts. So I would finish the academy at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and go out and mow lawns and take care of things, work all weekend, and then went on to the department.
And worked your way up through the department?
Yeah, I did. I did 25 and a half years with the Orlando Police Department. My first couple of years were on the road. I got asked to, I got transferred over to a special TAC team, if you will. And we were the ones who were assigned to do whatever. It could be stakeouts in the middle of the night, or it could be work in problem areas, or, I
got to ask you a question.
I was a prostitute once.
Yes! I knew it.
And he offered me a cigarette. He offered me a cigarette, and I wanted to
person I have in here, they always answer my question before I ask it because I'm such a smart,
Yeah, I gotcha.
you know,
You're
smart
right
aleck.
right on line with where we're going.
Yeah.
So I got to do all of that, and I loved it. Loved every minute of it. I did field training. I became a field training officer, and at some point I was encouraged to put in for sex crimes, become a detective there. I spent a year and a half in sex crimes, and I just hated the fact that I was you don't solve a lot of those. Back then you didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we didn't have the DNA tests, we didn't have the cameras, we didn't have the tools that we have to make it a little more successful now. So I was getting frustrated. I'd get these cases, these women, males being sexually battered, and I'd struggle with getting them solved. And then there's
just terrible stories.
Yeah, yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, you end up putting those somewhere in you and just do your job. That's what you have to do. But I saw a lot with little kids and whatever. And then an opening came up in homicide, and I was encouraged to apply for that. So I spent 10 and a half years in homicide for Orlando PD. And that's where the rubber meets the road, and there's no giving up ever on those cases. You know, they can sit there for months and go nowhere, and then all of a sudden you get a Crimeline tip.
Right.
And so I've actually seen in my career as a real cop what Crimeline tips can do from this unknown source. I mean,
just out of nowhere.
Just out of nowhere, you get frustrated. You know, in the heat of the moment, I'm stopping in the Crimeline office every day saying, "Hey, you got anything for me?" When the case is out there and it's hot and we're running, and then everything starts to slow down a little bit, and this file's this big and it's done nothing, and the family's calling you every day, and I'm like, I don't know what else to do, and I tell them I've tried this, I've tried that, and then one day you walk in and there's the tip sitting on your desk, and it's the tip that starts you down that road. It's that piece of the puzzle that puts all of it together for you. It's an incredible feeling, and you have no idea who did it.
Right, and you obviously on certain cases you pay for the information. It's totally anonymous.
Yep.
You know, give the money to them. It's an amazing thing. I had the opportunity to see some of it, sitting on the board for a short amount of time. It was just too much of a drive for me, to be honest with you. So talk. You were also the PR person for Orlando.
So while I was in homicide,
Okay.
as usual.
I think that's right when I first met you.
Yeah, as unusual as this is, they trained backup PIOs. I was never the full-time PIO, but they trained backup PIOs. So I had gone through the training, and we had an incident one day in Orlando where a male subject had committed a crime and had been chased by OPD up on I-4, and there was a Channel 9, or one of the news stations was right behind him, and actually videotaped this guy bailing out of a car on I-4, running down the embankment, and he took hostages in a house there. And it went on for days. Well, our real PIO was in court and couldn't come out. So I get this call from the chief of police, and he's like, "Hey, you're the backup PIO, come up here, we need to brief you on something." And I'm like, "Okay, I can stand by while he's finishing up." Oh no, this went on for days. This went on, I talked to Japan and Australia. This was a big case. You know, we were out in the rain, we had monsoons coming over the top of us, and ultimately, you know, the kids were recovered safely, and SWAT went in and took care of their business. But we were like 5 days out there. So that's kind of where my PIO experience came from. And then at the end of my career, I honestly thought I would do 20 years and leave. I don't know why. It was just, I had a 20-year mark. You know, I'll be good, I'll go.
Well, at 20 years, you were probably, what, 80?
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, you gotta understand, I've known Barb for a long time. We'll get into some personal stories about us being on the golf course.
I hit the ball a lot further than he does.
See, you're starting with me. So Crimeline, you don't have to, you can give a tip about anything.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So what's the best way to give a tip if you know something?
So a little history on Crimeline and Crime Stoppers, if you will. I think it's important for people to know.
That's not the question I asked you.
I don't care. I'm going to avoid it. Crime Stoppers started over 45 years ago. And it started because a detective was working, the host is gone for a minute, there he is, Albuquerque detective was working a homicide that he couldn't get solved. And it was a young young man, college kid, who took an extra shift at a gas station, and they found him shot to death in this gas station. They didn't have video like we do today, you know, all these things. And so he got the idea and worked with this police department about let's tell people, you can call this number, be anonymous, and there's a reward of $1,000. And the amazing thing about this is he slept in his cubicle because it was his phone to his desk that they used, and the phone started ringing the first night, but it wasn't about the homicide. People called about other cases, and one of the first cases solved was a sexual battery.
Oh, wow.
That they had no clue about who did it. And back then, again, no DNA. So long story short, this became, you know, it started a life of its own. Oh, well, I thought we had to be an hour here. Anyway, so Crime Stoppers started. The cool part was there was a professor from UCF visiting Albuquerque, and he had seen the news story, and he stopped in to talk about this Crime Stopper project that they had started. So Crimeline, Central Florida Crimeline, is the first Crime Stopper program set up outside of Albuquerque. So we're one of the oldest. And you know it started as Crime Watch back in the day. Now we're Crimeline. But what's really cool about what we do, you talk about how you give a tip. So we've morphed from a phone number. Now we're doing an app, mobile device, your laptop, or you can call 24 hours a day. We're watching a generation now who do nothing but get on their cell phones.
Exactly. And you're watching my generation that
can't even share.
I can't even share a video.
So you're one of them that will call me.
Exactly.
But we have a call center that answers 24 hours a day. They're specifically trained in taking anonymous tips. That's what they do. That's all they do. So they take the information. We work with this software that's incredible. It can be on my phone instantly. I can look at it and send it directly to who needs to get it. Our Crimeline here, the really cool part about Crimeline is whether I'm talking to old people like you or young kids in high school or the chamber, whoever, it doesn't matter. They'll know the number.
Right.
They'll know the number because Channel 9, Channel 6, Channel 2, Fox, all of them are going to say, call Crimeline at 800-423-TIPS.
Yep.
The new generation, though, they're going to crimeline.org and giving the tip there. Or we have a free app, it's P3, that you can download, and then you're instantly in the system to give tips.
Interesting. How many tips would you say how many crimes do you think Crimeline has helped be a part of to solve?
Yeah, I could walk over there and get it for you, actually.
Memories going
I
back? You know, the first thing to go at
Either one of them. I guess I should have prepared for this. That you would ask me a silly question about our success.
Yeah, exactly.
This is good. Thank you.
This is why we have people like Kim to take care of us in our old age.
Or you could have pulled up crimeline.org and looked at
that's
it.
why I have you.
Yeah, I got you. If you go to crimeline.org, our stats are on the homepage and they reload on a pretty, well, if we have a service in here. Yeah, so let's see. So in the past 12 months, we've received almost 10,000 tips, 486 arrests, 683 cases cleared.
Wow.
72 weapons seized. That's firearms. Those are just guns.
Yeah.
With 1.9 million in drugs.
This is last month?
12 months.
Oh, 12 months. Rolling 12?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
So that's just 12 months.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you that we've taken over the 40-some years. In our database, we have over 170,000 tips sitting here. That's one thing we don't do a good job of. And I sit currently as the current chair for Crime Stoppers USA.
Nationwide.
Nationwide.
Right here out of Central Florida.
Right here.
I'm
Your
absolutely.
friend.
I mean, I normally have like a crown or something.
A
tiara for you, but
not even a rose on this date. I started attending training, so it's kind of important to see why I ended up in Crimeline though. I thought I'd leave at 20. The Orlando Police Department has always sponsored a full-time police officer to Crimeline. There's always been someone assigned there. And I wanted to get out from under subpoenas. subpoenas and homicide can linger for years. I had one death penalty case that took 4.5 years before we actually finished the case.
Wow.
So I didn't want to, and I was committed, and I would come back and do my court appearances.
And you're not a very patient person.
No, it's just we need to do this. We need to get this over with, right? So I went ahead.
Would you just hit the ball? So I don't know how many times you told Jimmy that. Just hit the ball. Shut your trap in it. Okay.
So I ended up applying and got the coordinator's job. So I worked there as a police officer for Crimeline. And then the position of executive director came open, and I applied for that, and they hired me as the executive director. But I've seen, so I'm fortunate to have seen it from the actual working cop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether I'm chasing somebody with a warrant or I'm actually working a homicide tip that solves the case. And then I was the coordinator, which meant I was responsible for coordinating all these tips that come in to get them to the right place. We service 55 law enforcement agencies, not including all of our federal partners. 55
local.
Local. So we have 6 counties that we serve.
It's a lot of them.
Lake, Brevard, Orange, Seminole, Sumter, and Osceola. So we're north and south there.
Yeah. But I mean, if someone like was here and something from somewhere else, they can give you the tip and you can send it to her.
And the best part about Crime Stoppers today is that we work in a software, most of us. Nationally, I've got however many 100 programs that are a member of the national organization. We all use the same software, and with the click of a button, I can take a tip here and send it to California, New York, wherever it needs to be, and it's in the hands. U.S. Marshals, whoever needs the tip, can have it almost instantly on their phone.
Cool. Okay. Did you ever have to chase someone down in your career? I mean, like run
Have
after
you seen
them.
me run? It's not pretty. I'm not a runner. Now, I had some
You seem like the
partners,
person that would just be like, okay, if you keep running, I'm gonna.
No. Here's what I did.
I joke.
I know. But here's what, I
Or be
always
like-
had partners that liked to run. So I drove, and they ran. And I can tell you stories about, we'd be chasing a bad guy, and I'd be like, oh, I got the keys, I'm getting in the car, because I can see where he's headed. And we'll be going across the field, and my partner's outside the damn car, running, and I'm like, why are you running?
You
And
were
I'm
driving
driving, and the
next to
guy's
him.
in front of us. Why are you running?
Oh.
We can get in front of him with this car.
Do you mind since we are live, sometimes we get questions, you mind taking any questions?
No, absolutely.
And obviously, if you don't want to answer
She's
questions,
gonna shake
you
her
don't have
head,
to.
there's no questions.
Sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't.
We've had some comments. Patrick Austin would love for you to be our new host of this show. He says he loves us.
Patrick Austin, aren't you up for election right now? You ought to be careful. I don't think Barb lives in Seminole County. So just in case some questions come up. What I find interesting, and since you were in different levels of the crimes that what have you, there's been a lot of talk because of COVID and quarantines and everybody kind of stuck in their houses together that domestic violence cases are up and we're seeing a lot more or had seen a lot about that. And then all of a sudden, to me, they were talking about it, and then all of a sudden they stopped talking.
Yeah, I don't think that's really been the case. And actually, we've seen a decline in property crimes.
Oh, okay. So
Nonviolent crimes.
Yeah.
But there have been, in some of the counties, there have been an increase in some shootings and some homicides. Now, is that COVID related? I don't really know.
I think they're trying to tie everything to
Yeah, why not?
COVID.
We should probably. The fact that my hair is gray is probably COVID related.
And your hair was great.
And my hair,
COVID.
and I have wrinkles, so it's COVID related. I don't know the answer to that. At the end of the day, our number one tip that we take is about drug houses, places that are selling drugs. That's a consistent problem in all counties, and it's the root of everything else that happens, right? So if we can stop those, and we can, here's the deal. We have a little old lady who's living in her house. She wants to be in a safe community. She wants to come shop downtown. She wants to feel good about going where she's going to go, whether it be to the local grocery store or one of the restaurants here, or stop in and talk to you all, or whatever. And yet, in her neighborhood across the street, there's this house, and it's probably a rental house.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, there's constant traffic. And we're not talking people selling cosmetics.
Right.
Mary Kay, something like that. That transaction through the window is more than likely a drug transaction. So the last thing she wants wants to do is pick up the phone and call the local police department and have them come up to her front door while she stands there and points
in their
across
vehicle.
the street, right, across the street, and says, you know, I think that's a drug house. So that's the number one tip. It's about people who are calling to say, I want to feel safe, because with that drug house is going to come increases in burglaries, then we have some violent crimes, and then the home invasion of the wrong house or whatever could come out of that, right? And bullets don't have names. They go wherever they're going to go. So that lady's going to pick the phone up and say, this is what's happening. It's constant. It comes all days and all hours, and I think it might be a drug house. That's all I can tell you.
Right.
So then we send the tip over, and the guys will watch it and work it and figure out what's happening there. When we have a big case, you know, like homicides, and they make the news, those will increase tips for the homicide part.
Sure.
But for the most part, warrants are pretty active. We tell people everywhere, you know, when Uncle Tommy comes for Thanksgiving, if he's got a warrant, call us, we'll pick him up from the Thanksgiving dinner table.
Have you ever done a wedding? I mean,
Yes,
you see some
we've done people having babies.
Oh.
Listen to me, how horrible is that?
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm not the bad guy. I didn't
Right.
do the crime, right? We'll get a tip, and somebody in the family's at the hospital waiting for the baby to be born, and we have all the information there right now, parked at such and such, and boom, we're picking them up.
Yeah, I think I'd ask you on the golf course or sometime about there was like, come in and we'll do, I'm not giving away any tips, but come in and you won $100 gift card for such and such, and you know, you can pick it up at this location, and people like lined up.
They do line up.
Active warrants.
Well, look at these sex offenders, the ones,
Yeah.
the predators
Oh.
that are following this silly.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we don't typically have to do that because we're pretty lucky. Our citizens know, and they call us anyway. We're pretty busy with what we have. We get all kinds of things. I'll tell you the truth. I'm sitting in my office one day, and my staff's over in the other office, and I get a staff member running over because I heard the phone ring, and she's like, "You have to take this. I can't. And it's a guy on the phone who says, "I just watched them shoot this kid, and they're dragging him in to the back of the house."
Oh, wow.
And I'm yelling, "Why aren't you calling 911?" And he's like, no, I want to be anonymous, and maybe I want a reward.
Yeah.
And literally, based on that information, we were able to get into the neighborhood quick enough. They found the victim. Unfortunately, he did die. But the description and everything that we got from that person led us quickly to solving that. And the thing that I want the business people who are watching us, right?
Yeah.
Think about this. How much money did we save the city
Oh.
by cutting that investigation down time-wise?
Right.
And resolving that problem quickly. And you as the mayor, when you were the mayor, you know, what does that do for your community when you remove a major drug house?
Absolutely.
I mean, it cuts your calls for service, your paramedics coming out for overdoses, and all those things. Significant costs are saved when a good Crimeline tip comes in and it resolves the situation.
Yeah, and I think it's important also, we had a lot of these conversations over the 10 years that I was mayor, is that, you know, it may be, you know, Grandma Smith that knows all the you know, high school and just a little bit above kids because they've been in the neighborhood forever, and doesn't want to, just like you said, I don't want the police showing up at my doorstep, but I know there's nefarious things going on, and I hate it for the good kids that are trying to go to school, trying to do that's right across the street. So it's so important, the anonymous side of it, and I think we sometimes forget that.
So let me touch on that. No, let me touch on anonymity. Back in the day,
Say that 3 times.
anonymity. That's what I do for a living. Don't you do it now? Let's do it. Do it for the people. Do it for the fans.
There's no way I
Do
can
it,
get
come
out.
on.
Anonymity.
You blew it the first time.
Anonymity.
You're done. Tapped out. You can't be on the team.
I have a hard time saying my last name.
So here's the thing that's interesting. Over the years, Crime Stoppers has morphed into a different kind of animal. It used to be money. It used to be reward driven.
Yeah.
That people were going to call because I want a reward.
Right.
Today, if I told you that Crimeline pays out between 20 and 40% of our cash rewards, would you be amazed?
That's
20
Really?
to 40%, and sometimes 15%. Let me look at this. I can tell you that.
Why is that?
Because we're dealing with a generation of people who are not interested in cash money. They're good people.
Mhm.
They will help you. This thing isn't
They
recognizing
just
me. What
wanna
happened
do
to
the
my
right thing.
face here? They just want to do the right thing. So they don't want to go to court. They
Yeah.
don't want to write that statement. They don't want to engage with. We're in Florida. The public records laws are pretty liberal. They,
Yes.
people get found as witnesses and stuff like that.
Right.
So what they'll do is they will help you. They will give you the information that you need, and then they're done.
Mhm.
The cool thing about our current software that we use is we have the ability to dialogue with them completely anonymously.
Mhm.
So we can send them questions. They can answer questions. They can upload photos and video and all kind movie files and stuff so that we can get them right to the police.
Right.
It's really pretty cool, the cool stuff that we're working. So 136 in the past 12 months, the board of directors voted rewards of 136,000, and 20% of that's been collected.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is not about money anymore.
Yeah, do you think a part of that though is because of the social media side of it and everybody knows everything and it's so easy to find people that maybe they're afraid to come get the award,
No.
reward?
No,
No?
no, absolutely not. We're
Do you
seeing
think
this.
maybe you scare people
No.
every time you...
You're so full of it. I might scare you. I shouldn't scare you. Hopefully you are scared. No, we're seeing this in North America because I deal with Canada a lot as the chairman of USA, and we're
Nice.
seeing it across North America,
Really?
and even the Caribbean and stuff seeing the same thing where people aren't. It isn't about money. The little old lady, she didn't do it for the money. She
Yeah.
did it because she wants
community.
her community to be safe.
Yeah.
Somebody recognized the guy in the photo doing the bank robbery or whatever, he needs to be caught. He's got a drug problem, whatever, he needs to go to jail and it needs to be cleaned up. So anonymity is actually the driving force in Crime Stoppers right now. Do you know how to spell it? ANONI.
N-I-T-Y.
Yeah, there you go.
Anonymity.
Folks, it's written down in front of him, and he still can't
There's
get it
certain,
right.
I knew as soon as you said it, I knew there's no way that I can get that. I'm just an old Southern boy from Missouri. That's way too many synonyms. Is it synonyms? No way. That's way too many. So, like Sanford per se, we've got, and I don't have a clock, so I don't know.
It's
Oh, is it really?
yeah. Are we done?
Can we go a little bit longer?
I can.
No, what time do we start?
9.
Oh, we got another 30 minutes.
We do. What are we going to talk about?
No, I guess I got great questions.
That's debatable.
So like, it seems like we've been here an hour and a half. I gotta be honest with you, I can't believe that said 30
Who's running
minutes.
this show?
I know. Cold cases.
Mhm.
There was a time, and over the course of time, and specifically to, I got specifically out, specifically to Sanford, we had at one point in time like 7 cold cases that were, 20 plus years, and we opened some, under Cecil Smith and his group, opened some of those back up to take a look at it. And we know, I know that there's people out there that know what went on, or what happened, or who did what, and people are really afraid of.
Sure, of making the statement.
But if you think about Sanford, a small community, 60,000 people, and then take that nationwide. If we have at any point in time 5 to 10 cold cases where there's nothing happening for that many years, nationwide, how many are there? Because the sex crimes, pedophilia right now is a big, talking point, especially with Epstein and
Right.
the higher ups and all this stuff, and how many people go missing. It's actually hard to fathom for me how many of those can
Unsolved
actually be
cases.
out there.
So here's what I tell people. We have a great relationship with Real Radio that we do
Yeah.
every Tuesday, and they give us an opportunity to sit in there and use their radio waves, which reaches hundreds of thousands of people.
Kind of
It's
like
huge.
our chamber video.
Oh yeah.
Why you laughing? What?
Because I don't even know if anybody's watching us.
That's why I'm not looking. If they were watching, they'd probably quit by now.
I'm going to work over this, right? Anyway, So we talk all the time about what we encourage people to do is lifestyles change.
Okay.
So you were younger, you were engaged in some things, you knew some things, you dated somebody who did something, at the time you were so in love or whatever, now you're out of that situation. It don't matter when, where, or how, we'll take the tip. And it doesn't matter where the crime occurred. If you used to live up north and you know something about there, we'll take the tip and immediately get it off to the proper people to let them investigate it. So
really, it's almost the point you're making, not to put words in your mouth, but no tip is too
Never.
insignificant.
No.
That's
That's
the
it.
second
There
big
you
word.
go.
I mean, I'm getting into the big words now. It's 9:30. I've had a cup of coffee.
we don't make decisions when it comes to these things too. I want everybody to know that. Every tip that comes in goes out because my staff isn't given permission to decide what's valuable. I don't know what's in a detective's case file. I don't know what they know because we have so many of them. So we give them everything and they tell us whether it had value or not.
Okay. So if I get this right, you're like the mule
Well,
coming across the U.S. border from Mexico. You don't know what's in the car. You just know something's
just
in the
something's
car.
in the car. We're going to give it to somebody else and hand it off and see what value it has.
You know, that was a pretty good tie.
Yeah, I like that.
No, that's interesting because I knew that part of it, but really there's no tip too insignificant.
No, it
You
doesn't-
take it and push it.
So, with that
We have a
being
question
said,
from the audience.
I don't know.
so with that being said, do you find that there are more of these types of cases, or it seems like more because of social media? They've always been there, you know, the missing girls, the child, the pedophile.
Great question. Maybe we know about it more because of
Yeah,
the
social media, which brings me to another thing we wanted to
Yeah.
point out today, that social media is our driving force today. It's how we are educated, it's how we learn the news, it's how we know what's happening right now. Back in the day, you would wait for the 6 o'clock news to see what happened in Central Florida today, right? Now, there's no waiting, because right now I can tell you what they're talking about even before they're airing it, because they're putting it out. So if you follow us on our Twitter account, that's where we put most of our unsolved cases. We'll deal with any unsolved case. There's so many of them that I don't have the ability to put them out there.
Right.
So if there's an unsolved case, we'll take info on it. But if you'll follow us on our Twitter account, and it's Crimeline FL, just go find us and follow us. You'll see all the cases that we're working on. Right now, I think the latest case that we popped up there with Orange County is a 14-year-old shot and killed in a drive-by. And they have video, they have incredible video of the bad guy sitting on the outside of the car as it's going down the road, looking like he's pointing a gun. I'm like, where's this happening and why? But the fact is, if you know the car, you know the person, that's the information.
So Crimeline FL
for
on
Twitter. Yep.
Well, I want her to answer. I don't know if you really got to what your thought is on the answer. Is that do we know more about cases because of social media now versus what we 20
You
years ago?
certainly know it quicker, and I
Yeah.
think that law enforcement has sort of loosened up their reins a little bit on what they'll put out there. Because what I learned as a detective, at some point you just say, this happened at this time on this day, right?
Yeah.
And then 5 days down the road, it's starting to fall out of the media, you're not getting much attention,
Yeah.
you have to go back out there and ask for more help. So you need to feed them a little more. You need to say, talk about your victim or talk about whatever. So those things happen a little bit quicker now because of social media. And let's talk, cameras are incredible today.
Yeah.
There's cameras everywhere. And if you think you're not on video somewhere,
Exactly.
maybe in your own house,
Yeah.
and even then, Alexa's listening to you.
Oh, yeah,
So,
man.
or your phone's listening to you on Google. You know, it's the information's there, and it's easier, and we get a little better quality. Now, during COVID, there was an interesting question we talked about on Real Radio this week. During COVID, everybody's wearing masks, so some of these robberies, they all look alike because everybody's got a mask on, but we can still solve those cases if it's a unique walk. I'll tell you one real quick that we solved 2 months ago. 81-year-old veteran out for a walk in the middle of the day, was going to walk around the block, just walking by himself, and this guy with a very unique limp goes past him. You see it on video. Goes past him, looks at him, and is like, it just targets him to be the victim.
Yeah.
Turns back around, comes up next to him, says something to him, snatches a wallet or something out of his pocket, pushes him to the ground. 10 minutes later, he's doing the same thing to another 80-some-year-old. And because of some detective work in Crimeline tip, we were able to identify that guy. He's preying on 80-some-year-old veterans
Signal.
out for a walk.
Yeah.
But the camera and the people paying attention were able to help us.
You know, we always said that, and then we've got another question, but we always said that in, you know, when we talked to the chief and the, you know, out talking about, you know, crime and the whole thing is that at any given point in time in Sanford, you know, we have just under 150 officers. Well, we're 23 square miles of city of Sanford, and at any given point in time, we may have 15 patrol officers out there, so, and 60,000 residents. So it's really about paying attention and watching and helping each other out and making the tip. And if you see something, say something.
Right.
And that kind of goes down that path.
Right, and our slogan is "Say it here." It's
Yeah.
our national slogan. If you know something, you say it right here. You will be anonymous.
Yeah.
That is the business we're in, is anonymity.
Right.
Say that word again.
Get it out there.
Yeah.
Question.
You might have covered this earlier, but this person just logged in. In your opinion, how have the relationships and/or interactions between the enforcement and citizens and general public changed or evolved over the last 20 years in the metro area?
That was very specific.
It was very specific. I think that in regards to Crimeline, from the Crimeline standpoint, we have always had, we do what we say we're going to do. We keep this community anonymous and we pay our rewards. So I don't know that I've seen much difference for us. It's a constant educational thing for me as the executive director. I'm constantly educating the community like we're doing today, that we truly keep you anonymous. I don't have your IP address, your phone number, or your cell phone number you're calling from. I have none of that available to me. So it's a constant education. This is what anonymity is. This is what it looks like. We're not going to ask you your name. And it's a constant education thing to law enforcement too. Because I get calls almost weekly, if not every day, from law enforcement saying, I need the phone number for that tipster so I can call them because I know they know more, or I can tell they witnessed this or something. And we're like, yeah, we're not doing that. A, we don't have it, and B, we're not doing that. So I see our tips, another part of this response would be advertising and marketing for us and doing things like this event today, or real radio, finding the right market to advertise to. When we started with Real Radio, we were doing about 4,000 tips a year. Within the first year, we went to 8,000, and now we average between 9,000 and 10,000 tips a year.
Wow.
So getting the word out in front of the right people, and now it's so much easier to give a tip, because you can be sitting at a traffic light and start typing your tip, and then next traffic light, finish it up.
I like how you put that in it. Yeah.
Don't be doing it while you're driving. So I guess the answer is the business has changed, and we're digital more, and it's an educational thing. I need to be out in front of as many people as I can to inform them as to what we do.
Yeah, I was thinking you need a better PR person, but
I'm horrible, I know.
Yes,
I ever ragged around the edges and
a little.
I was actually, somebody said we need to get you a cape because you're amazing. It's amazing you've been doing this for 20
thank
years.
you.
30 plus years, let's just say
Yeah,
that.
Sorry,
they
the
said
bar
20,
for
but
me.
yes. No, that was for Barb.
Oh, that was for
She needs a cape. We need to get her a cape. She's a hero to our community.
I mess with her, but I've learned so much, and I've enjoyed getting to know you. And your son.
Oh yeah, he loves your parades up here.
Oh yeah.
He's like, are we parading? Is there a parade?
always come up and bring the truck and,
Yep,
and
we
the
try
boat and
to,
the trailer.
And I would say, whoever's listening or watches this later, if we get some viewers,
We have one.
I like doing this. I like getting in front of people and speaking to them and talking to them about the things that we do. We do have a 25-foot trailer that we're able to do hot dogs and sodas and stuff out the side of, or be in the parades. That's a great way. We love rolling it out to businesses, for the large corporations. I would love to roll out to the parking lot of a large corporation and do hot dogs and sodas in your parking lot, just so people get to actually see this is what we do and hand out the trinkets and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it really, as we find out too, sometimes you're out of sight, out of mind, and people forget about what the chamber's mission is and what we do, and we support businesses, we bring people together.
Right.
But the same with Crimeline, you might see the big red truck and be like, oh, you know what, I forgot all about that, and go down.
Let me tell you what's really cool. You drive down I-4 in the big red truck with Crimeline on it, everybody
somewhere
Like, I got
special.
somewhere special to go.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get her to come to Business Expo and bring her Crimeline
Absolutely.
van. That would be amazing.
We'll talk about that. We got a business expo coming up.
Can we talk about one more thing about our funding?
You've
we're a
got plenty of
nonprofit.
time.
I know
Did you write that down?
I know you looked at
Yeah, I
my
did.
sheet.
No, I didn't, honestly, I didn't, but it's
well.
always something I like to touch on, especially with business people, because it's important for them to know.
I wanted to, I was actually gonna ask, how do you get funded? How does that
Yeah,
happen?
so the majority of our funding comes from the state of Florida is the best funded for Crime Stopper programs across the country. There's no question.
So it
Texas
comes out of the legislature.
It comes out of court fines.
Court fines, okay.
So when you go to court, and some of you have been to court, and some of you have tried to fight your traffic tickets, and you lost. And then the judge says, not only did you lose this ticket, but now you're gonna pay all my court fines.
Yep.
And one of them is Crime Stoppers.
Okay.
It's a $20 bill to Crime Stoppers. Now apparently, your clerk of the court needs 3 of those dollars somehow to collect 20. It takes 3, I don't know that math, but they take 3 immediately, and then everything goes to Tallahassee. Wouldn't be Florida if it didn't.
Right.
Where they gotta take 8% for GR, for
Yeah.
general revenue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then the Attorney General takes, I think they're taking 7% of our
Yeah, 'cause
$20.
they're important.
Because they're managing the grant.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a pretty significant grant, and it does the majority of our funding. It pays for the rewards, our advertising, our marketing, most of our salary, 30% goes towards salaries for staff. But we still do fundraising.
Yep.
And we have to, because we're a big moving machine.
Sure.
And when you get this big and you're covering 6 counties and you're trying to be in a lot of places, there are other costs that the grant won't pay for, plus we go above and beyond what we normally would do in our grant. So we do some fundraising.
It's some great events.
Yeah, we have, and we do
have
it
fun.
for some reason. They're all happening right now in Seminole
Yeah,
County. You need
yeah.
to thank me for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And depending on how COVID rolls
Yeah.
out in the future,
Listen, we're in the same boat.
yeah, right now there's no fundraising scheduled. We can't safely do the events we do. But if any of you have had a chance to attend the Zoo Done It,
Mhm.
now this is a really cool event.
It's an awesome event.
We sell this thing out in 8 days.
Yeah.
And it's an event where I bring in crime scene, real live crime scene detectives
At the Central
at the
Florida
Central
Zoo.
Florida Zoo, and we set up crime scenes around the inside of the zoo with the animals and all that, the spinning llama and the camel and all that when camel was still there,
Yeah.
right? And we give you dinner, we give you some drinks, then we open the zoo and you walk around and you solve a mystery
Mhm.
in the zoo. We have a polygraph machine out there. Last year we had a bloodhound that tracked one of the radio personalities through the parking lot. Just a lot of fun. But what's interesting is we show you when we talk to you about the fact that while you've been laying in your pajamas during COVID-19 and watching all of the CSI TV shows, and you thought DNA could be done in 5
30
seconds, it can't. And so we're really talking to you about touch DNA and saliva and all the things we can do and what a meth lab looks like.
Why did you point at me? Like, I mean, I know I grew up in Missouri, the meth lab capital of America, but that doesn't mean
Wait, so we had a kid from the academy class walking through the zoo all night long with a backpack on, and literally half of a meth lab sticking out of his backpack. It was a portable meth lab, and those are the kind of things that we educate people on, what to look for and stuff like that. Then we all come back together and we give away a trip to San Francisco and Napa Valley that night.
Mhm.
That right now is on hold. The other thing that we do, and we've been doing this for years, is the Crimeline Chili Cook-Off.
Good. I was going to go into that.
And we have we have a blast with that. We get, about 4,000 on a typical year. Last year we held it over here at the mall in
Yeah.
Sanford. And
I cooked.
you did cook.
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
Well, unfortunately, I was next to Jimmy.
Oh, that's a problem.
Yeah, and so
The crowds.
he had a line out,
They didn't know your
and I was
chili
like,
was his.
I'm standing there with my ladle going, hello, I got good chili over here too, and so I got to where I was going down his line and just handing him, while you're waiting for Jim's chili from,
But aside from those two
it was
events,
a great event.
we do have some corporate partners who come to us and say, we want to help you. One thing we haven't touched on, and we had a huge corporate partner in Lake County help us recently, is we have a program called Speak Out. Now, Speak Out is exactly Crimeline, but it's intended for the safety of our school campuses. And it started about 17, 18 years ago, when a student was having a problem with another student over a girl or something,
Sure.
and it escalated. And unfortunately, this one student came to school with a gun, and kids knew the gun was on campus, and kids knew about the previous problems.
Yeah.
And he shot and killed the kid he was having the problem with. So immediately following all of that was a tragedy. Never should have happened. The kids didn't report for whatever the reason was. We started Speak Out. Speak Out has the same number as Crimeline, 800-423-TIPS, has its own website, has its own app, free app that they can download. It is incredible the number of tips that we take, especially when school's in right now. Our number one tip is typically bullying.
Yeah.
Because that is kind of like the drug houses stem all the other crimes. Bullying tends to lead to many other problems, so we want to squash it as quickly as we can. So we take a lot of tips on bullying with the kids, and we get contracts between both parties, and so the SROs get involved. E-cigarettes are a real problem on campus today. They're disruptive. They're bad for the, we don't want our kids doing that stuff. We don't know what it's doing to their young bodies, and it certainly should not be on the school campuses. But the one thing that's the most disturbing is when school's in session and the kids on social media are talking to each other, is we will take a tip, and we're 24 hours reactive. If the tip comes in and it needs action now, bad guy standing on the street corner, he has a warrant. Kid is threatening suicide. Kid's saying, I'm going to hurt myself tonight. We take tips on that, and we are immediately reactive. When school is in session, we typically, every month, will have 3 to 4 tips that led to a student being found and Baker acted. Now, when I tell you Baker acted, that's the last thing any police officer wants to do.
Absolutely. Especially at that age.
Absolutely. You don't want to do that. But that kid is in such need of mental health help. And had that student not made that tip to us, we don't know. We literally had a case where a kid was talking about, I'm doing it tonight. The knife's under my bed as soon as my parents go to sleep. I'm done. I can't live like this anymore. And this student was updating us with this tip. And we were fortunate enough to get there. The parents had just gone to bed, woke them up, told them why, uniformed officers woke them up, said, this is what we have, we need to check your son. Got to the bedroom, had the knife under the mattress, and in fact admitted to everything he had said and was Baker acted. And we never know, did we save a life? But we certainly intervened where mental health counseling was needed.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important part, and going down that path is that there's so many of the teens, and we talked about bullying a little bit, but that it's true.
I tore up the set. Sorry.
That's why I'm going to fall. Be careful. That the bullying side of it, and then the mental health side of it, and everything is dramatic at that age. The hormones are raging in one form or fashion or another, and one thing can set someone off. And it's so important to have. And a lot of in our society today, they may not have someone to talk to, a mom or a dad that is receptive, or a friend that's receptive, because everybody's like this, and it's so keyboard cowboy is what I call it. The lack of being able to have.
But listen, you're old, so when you were growing up, you went home and you played with your little pocket of friends, right?
Yeah.
You played football, you played baseball, some golf.
I played football too. I was all district football.
I don't know if I believe that. Were you the punter or something?
No.
Okay.
I was tight end.
Okay.
Seriously, I was good.
Okay. So you went home and you did your thing with your little group.
Baseball.
But what's happening today is there's a 24-hour connect with these kids.
Yeah.
And they're online and they're tearing each other up.
Yeah.
And parents aren't monitoring.
Yep.
They're not taking those devices away from them at night. And that's when the most common time we see tips is when a kid should probably be in bed. 8 to 11 o'clock.
Right.
And they're sending us information. Hey, my friend said this today and I'm really worried. I saw my friend had cuts on their wrist today and I'm really worried. It's crazy, but social media, the good that it does, along with that comes some really bad things that are happening for our children.
Yeah, and going back to growing up, the street lights came on, you went home.
Yep.
Or if we got into a fight on the street, we were more afraid of Billy's dad because he's gonna whip our butt, and then he's gonna drag you back to your dad, and he's gonna whip your
Yeah.
butt, so you're gonna get a double whipping. And at school, the same way, and now, it's the no touch, no
Well,
see, no.
yeah, and then you got parents who are also on their devices and not paying attention to anything going on around.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm freaking out a little bit that I don't have my cell phone with me, because I don't know what time it is.
I'll tell you,
I love-
9:52.
I love the fact you still wear a watch.
Why would you not?
Because it's on
This
your
is
phone.
a piece of jewelry too.
Whatever. How's your golf game?
It's pretty good. I have a
Yeah.
6-year-old son who's
Yeah.
knocking the heck out of the ball too.
Really?
Yeah.
Does he hit as far as I do?
About.
I can only imagine. I've got 2 fake hips. I mean, I gotta be careful when I swing the club anymore.
That's the best excuse you have.
And, yeah.
These people don't want to hear about this.
Yeah, I know. Barbara and I have played in several golf tournaments together, and we
lost.
She
We
gets to
didn't win
play.
much.
Yeah, we don't normally win. We have a good time, but she just crushes the ball. But your short game is terrible. I hope you can
It's
come
better.
back. Is it
Way
better?
better. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Something clicked in my brain.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what, but it did.
Hmm.
Anyway, triplet has not helped our teams much, so
I know,
I don't invite him much
I don't.
anymore.
Well, I used to when I was mayor. I'd always be on my phone.
Oh.
For God's sakes.
There you go.
And now that I'm not, I've got time.
Okay.
So what to finish it? What is your most memorable moment, Barb? The one thing that, whether it be solved the crime or something that brought a tear to your eye that you absolutely, except for your having your boy and all that. I mean, in the business.
Listen, it wasn't the day I met you.
You cried the day after that. Why did I have to meet?
I can honestly say that and it wasn't that long ago, we were asked by Mount Dora Police Department to help them with a case. And it was an elderly couple who lived on a very large piece of property and had figured out that someone was breaking into their house at night while they slept. And they ended up setting up a bunch of cameras, and we got unbelievable high definition photos of the bad guys coming in with a gun in their hand while they were upstairs sleeping with a dog. So they came to us and they said, what can we do? And they're like, we need to give you extra money for a reward. And I'm like, you really don't. Let's just get it out to the media. No. So we threw some money at it, and I kept telling them, it's not the money. It's not the money. You got to get it in front of the right people.
Yeah.
And we ran with it on Fox TV, who we have a very special relationship with. And within a couple of days, we took that tip that identified the players in these burglaries. And they were coming from outside of Mount Dora into Mount Dora to commit the crime. But the thing that I'll never forget is I got to meet those victims, and I rarely now deal with victims very often.
Right. Yeah, 'cause you're the
homicide days.
high-power
Shut
national
up, I am
head.
nobody.
I'm national
I'm
head
nobody.
of Crown.
I just pay rewards. But in homicide days, I built relationships with families, and still today, hear from some of those families, but now not so much. But I got to meet them, and when I met them, and there were tears in their eyes, and they were like, you can't understand how grateful we are and how we can actually sleep at night now knowing that this has been resolved.
It's an absolute violation when you're not there, let alone when you're there.
That happened to me. When I was in sex crimes, I came home from work late one night, went to bed, and was awoken about 3 o'clock in the morning to somebody had gotten into my Florida room. I didn't have an alarm at the time. I'd really just recently bought the house, and they were trying to force the immediate door into the kitchen with their hip, and it was a deadbolt, and that's what I was woken by. And I grabbed a gun, and I'm like, here we go.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, it probably took me 6 months before I slept.
Right.
And I had the alarm installed and got a dog, and I could see where this guy had stood underneath my bedroom window.
Oh, my God, yeah.
I mean, so I do understand what these victims go through. We never solved it. I just lived a different life, and it is a horrible thing. So to be able to help these families, I'll give you one more quick one, okay? 2 boys out doing things they shouldn't do at night, ended up stealing a gun from a car that was unlocked, tried to sell the gun to a major drug dealer. I mean, this is a guy who has the teardrops, meaning he's done some pretty bad things.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? He's not going to buy that gun from them. He takes them and executes them down on a bike trail. Not only does he execute them, but he burns their body.
I remember the story.
And one of them is the captain of one of our local law enforcement offices. The other one is a single mom to the other boy. We ultimately take that tip, and we take that tip because no one in that neighborhood is going to give him up because he's such a bad guy.
Right.
And when you deal with that mother, and I brought her in to talk to the board of directors, there were tears through the whole board when she said, "You just don't understand. You know, I'll never see my boy again, but thank goodness we've got this animal off the street."
Right.
So I've been fortunate to be involved in some of those cases that have really made a difference in our community. But I think every day across this country, Crime Stoppers is making a difference in safety.
I agree. So, website,
Crimeline.org.
mobile.
Yeah, I'll give it. 800-423-TIPS.
I was saying the mobile app. Kim got to you. Knew it
Kim-
because I always ask.
I know.
And there's only been one person to not give their cell phone
Yeah,
number.
it is 800-423-TIPS,
I know.
or you can do the tip online at crimeline.org, or our free app is called P3, just P3.
P3.
Yep.
What's P3 stand for?
It's the software company.
It's a
that
software
designed it,
company?
yeah.
Okay, P3.
And for
Very
kids,
cool.
it's P3 Campus. So P3 for adults, P3 Campus for the kids.
Yeah, and speak out, that's a big thing.
That is a big
I'm glad
thing.
you brought it up.
And if you're a parent, I would encourage you to download P3 Campus onto your kids' phones and tell them if ever they feel unsafe or there's
Yeah.
something going on at school, this is how you use this app.
Are you working with Seminole County School
Oh,
on that?
huge.
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
Seminole
good.
County Schools and the superintendent and the
Yeah.
school board members and the sheriff's office, huge.
Okay.
Because this camera's gonna go down.
Oh, yeah.
You get an hour.
We've talked.
Get an hour.
Well, yeah, I think that's huge, and Walt Griffin obviously is
Yep.
such a good, our superintendent. He's actually going to be with us Wednesday morning at our Business Connections. You're welcome to come anytime. It's out at Chianti's, 7:30 to 9, first, third, and fifth Wednesdays of the month. You have a great group of business people, so I'll throw out an open invite. And
Okay,
obviously,
thank
I'll
you.
send you you can bring the big red bus and bring it
Okay.
out in front. And well, not the bus, that's blood. You don't
We,
want blood.
we have a bus route
you
too,
want-
so I could bring a bus.
Oh, dude, I want to drive the bus. Can I drive the bus?
Talk to Lance.
I'll take care of that. Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah,
than
just drive it,
permission.
right?
Yeah, that's the way I kind of live my life. But thank you so much for being in. Sanford Chamber, obviously, any business connections, all of our events and stuff going on are at www.sanfordchamber.com. 407-322-2212 is our phone number here at the office. And then my personal cell phone number is 407-314-4864. I keep it on my card, so you're welcome to call me at any time if you want to talk process or anything else business related. Thank you so much, Barbara. We're going to get out of here and start the day. Have a great Chamber of
You
Commerce
too.
day.
Have a great day.
Obviously, and when you're up and about, stop and see us. I'd love to
Okay.
see your son.
Thank you.